Hi, Marilyn here with Cotton and Chocolate Quilt Company, and today I'm demonstrating how to use Deb Tucker's Studio 180 wing clipper, and this is how you make flying geese. And so I love the wing clipper because it's easy to use. You start with an oversized square or blocks, and then you cut them down to size and they turn out perfect, which is how I like to operate. So this is the wing clipper 1, which is based on half inches, and then there's the wing clipper 2, which is based on quarter inches, but they work exactly the same. So when you buy the ruler, it comes like this, and it comes with this great handout, and it shows you how to use it for right hands and left hands, and it has a guide for cutting. But there's also another guide which is available on her website called the No Nudge Method, which is what I'm showing you, because in the first guide it shows you to nudge the squares up a little bit. It gets a little bit confusing. And so what she's done is basically to this guide is added a quarter inch to all of her cutting guides. So today I'm making a 2x4" finished or 2.5 by 4" raw edge. So originally you would cut the large squares at 5.5 and the small squares at 3, but all you do is add a quarter inch. Okay, so I'm cutting my large squares at 5 3/4, my little squares at 3 3 1/4. And how do you remember it? Well, you can print this out. So here we are, 2x4, 2.5 by 4.5 unfinished, 3 1/4, and 5 3/4. So this is what we're getting to, our colorway. So this is the background, the large square, and your wings are the small square. Sometimes, you might get confused what is what. And you can always look at flying geese another pattern, and they might be doing them a different way, and you can always translate the pattern into these guidelines and how to use it this way. So the first thing you're going to do is start with your large square. 5 3/4. My small squares, you need 4 of them, and you will get 4 flying geese, 4 of these out of this, 1 large square and 4 small. It will yield 4. Okay, even if you want 2, you're going to get 4. Okay, so I use the Studio 180 Quilters Magic Wand first off, and a mechanical pencil of some sort. I'm using the sew line pencil, and you need to mark these first. Mark them before you get started from point to point. So I just put my ruler down, and they come in different colors. This is the one I just happen to have handy, and there's a little laser drawn line right down the middle, and it's a quarter inch from this side to this side. You need to mark your quarter inch so that you can sew on it. So I just put point to point, and I've drawn a line from this side and this side, and that's really critical to get that line drawn. You might not be able to see it, but it's drawn on there, and I've done it on all 4 of these pieces before I get going. Okay, so once I get that drawn, I'm going to take 2 of those squares, I'm going to pin them on, and they will overlap, and I'm going to sew perfectly on that line down each side. Okay, like I said, they will overlap each other, and those lines should match up. Now, once I have that lined up, I'm going to take my ruler and my rotary cutter, and I'm going to go from point to point, and I'm going to...
Right here.
Oh, there's my rotary cutter. I knew I had it. And I'm going to cut down the middle. Okay? And then I'm going to take my iron and press this out, each of them. Right now I'm just going to finger press it for the point of this demonstration. And this is where your other 2 squares come in. So you have 2 other squares. You have 2 that you used here, and you have 2 left, right? And I'm going to lay it down here on the edge and pin that on, and lay this down here and pin this on here. And then I'm going to sew on that line and that line. And those little lines should match up right on the edge here. So I've already done that right here. And I've sewn down. And then I'm going to take my ruler again, and I'm going to cut that off. So there's 2 flying geese right here. You can see that happening right there, right? and 2 flying geese right here. And then I take my other one, so let's just say that was that, and I take my other one, sew it down, and I have the other 2. So there's our 4 flying geese. Pretend that I've sewn that. Imagine it, okay? So there's the 4 from that first block. So right now, they aren't 2.5 by 4.5. They're rough. They're rough. You can see it. They aren't 2.5 by 4.5. This is where the ruler comes in. So get these pressed, and then we're going to bring out the wing clipper ruler. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to obviously cut them as a right-hander. So as a right-hander, I always have the emblem up that says wing clipper, and it will be facing on my left-hand side. And then I look for the 2.5 by 4.5. You can cut this using this ruler from 1 by 1.5, very small. How would that finish? 1/2 by 1. Whew, that's really small. Up to 5.5 by 10.5. It would finish 5 by 10. So this is a very versatile ruler. Now, if you look at mine, it looks a little bit cloudy, and that's because I've sprayed it with my grippy non-slip coating so that when I'm cutting, it doesn't slip around. I love this. Of course, we sell it at the shop. We sell all of these things at the shop. Whew, how about that? So I've just taken this and held it out like this and sprayed it once and let it dry for 60 seconds. And then I did 2 coatings on it. And then eventually it kind of wears off a little bit, and then I'll spray it again. But it's fabulous because then when I put it on here, it doesn't move around. So now what I'm going to do, the first off, is I have this V flying towards me, and that's going to be my first cut. And I lay that V of the 2.5. So here's my 2.5 right here and my 4.5, and I lay that V right in the V of the wings, and I'm going to cut off the top. Oh, my machine's in the way here. And the side like that. Okay. Now, a lot of times I'll have at least 4 of these to do, and I will do all 4 of them at once. Sometimes I have 4 or 8 or 12, whatever you have. I like to do the same thing at once so I don't get confused. But this time we'll just cut one. Now I'm going to turn it around. I do not turn my ruler. I always keep my ruler in the exact same position with the emblem on the left side. If you're left-handed, the emblem would be on the right side, and the photograph will, in the pamphlet will show you how to do that. And then I'm going to line it up at 4.5 by 2.5. And this lovely about this ruler is you have this little X here that lines it up right where it should be, as well as on the outside. There's always a double line up. And then I'll cut this off here and across the top. Okay, and here is your perfectly sized flying geese. Oops, that little edge didn't cut off. Let's cut that off. And also, this is a perfect 1/4 inch. So when you're sewing, you have that perfect 1/4 inch on the back and a perfectly sized flying geese. So there you go. That's how you make perfect flying geese with the Deb Tucker wing clipper, and you can go on and start making your quilt. Thanks for joining me.